I'm Doug Donaldson. I'm part of the business development team for UOVO Wine. I work in the Mid-Atlantic area as well as most recently our two Texas facilities, Dallas and Houston. Excited today to have Drew Paquin here with us, and Drew is our Senior Director of Facilities and Expansion. And I love that last word in particular because we certainly continue to grow. If you could, explain your role kind of in a broad sense so people understand what that actually means.
Absolutely, Doug. Thanks for having me. So my current role, because I've had quite a few over the last 12 plus years, involves supporting the existing facilities and their primary systems, making sure that everything's functioning as it should, be it refrigeration, the backup power sources, security systems, basically anything that is at the core of what we do, keeping wine cold and secure. So supporting local facilities, making sure everything's being maintained the way that it should be. And then also focusing on newer, larger CapEx projects, be it enhancements to existing facilities, new refrigeration, new items that help service the collectors from a facilities building machinery standpoint, as well as new sites, new development, new locations. And then dabble a little bit in compliance with our CFO, types of terms and conditions, transportation compliance, state by state, US DOT, all the real fun stuff.
Most people hopefully have heard now that we have just acquired the Vino Vault, and we are in the process of integrating all of those facilities into our network and our ecosystem. What types of things are you doing with those facilities to kind of make sure that they seamlessly integrate and become, part of our ecosystem and our infrastructure in a really positive way?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have the focus of my department, my bucket, is kind of like at the core stuff, the items behind the scenes. One would be like brand look and feel, just kind of putting some of our color schemes, our PMS, onto the new sites that we've recently brought into the family. So we have a pretty similar feel if you go into our lounges, for as far as the different colors and some of the different decor. So integrating some of that, focusing on branding, bringing everything on board as UOVO wine. So you'll see marquee signage, Wayfair signage, and then also the essential systems. So for us, that's confirming refrigeration, and that's all up to spec. Also bringing in line all their security and surveillance systems. We use consolidated platforms for all of our sites where we can go and view burglary, environmental, access control. One platform we can access and manage all of our sites. So it really enhances the abilities of the local team by giving them resources outside of their building. And the same is done for surveillance. The cameras at our sites, those are all integrated on the same platform, so that we can view them and manage them from anywhere in the country, and multiple users can. So basically getting the same systems and standards in place that, again, the core of cold and secure and being consistent with like the feel in the lounges and then the feel of the cold warehouse, making sure that it's cold.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, a very important part of what we do. What do you think the most exciting challenges are as we look to expand our footprint, right? We're always trying to grow. We're always looking at different markets. What do you've got to be in this all the time. So I'm just curious what you think on that.
Yeah, it's, challenges in our industry, it's exciting to some, less to others. Compliance is really interesting, I find, when it comes to what can you do in certain states and what can't you do. That certainly dictates the types of clients we have in certain states and certain markets. You have markets like Washington, D.C., where we can be an incubator of sorts and have licensee clients. Somebody can start their own business and have it hosted at our sites. And there's some states that will not let you do anything near that. Right. So, when looking at new states and new markets, identifying what type of business can we do there It's certainly a challenge, and I think it's pretty interesting because it's, um, alcohol compliance is not only state by state, sometimes it's county by county. So it's pretty important in identifying, um, how you can operate in certain areas, to make sure that if that's a place we want to be, we can do the things that we want to do.
Yeah, yeah. Especially because we have all these kind of robust, we have advisory services, we have seller trader, all of those. It sounds like you're really looking at how we can kind of leverage and maximize those.
100%. There's some states where, there's very specific regulation on if we as a company, even as a storage provider, can touch the wines or manage the wines for a client. So, it would be quite a misstep to go into a place where we can't do those core things, those differentiators of ours.
Yeah, yeah. We talked about Vino Vault and that acquisition, but I know we've got a new facility coming on board soon in South San Francisco. So that's kind of exciting. So if you could maybe share a little bit about that and what you're doing there and what the timing of that is.
Absolutely. That's a really fun project for myself and our team. We have new square footage in South San Francisco. It's one of the first opportunities to get real up close and personal with our art family. There's an existing art facility in South San Francisco, and we'll basically be very close neighbors to them. And so at this stage, we have a 10,000 square foot facility that has been completely designed from bottom to the top. We have our design set in with permitting with South San Francisco, and we're close to the end there, so that we'll be able to break ground. The goal being to be up and running about mid-year, and just kind of matching the specs of our recent builds, like super nice, tight building envelope, state-of-the-art refrigeration, surveillance, security, again, all the essentials, and giving us a new location in the Bay Area, a bit more centralized in the San Francisco kind of Silicon Valley area, giving us access to clients there who don't necessarily have access to the full management of their collections that we give them via the Premier service. So it's pretty exciting.
What considerations do you make when you think about all our other divisions, right? We've got transit, we've got advisory services, we've got seller trader. How do you, when you're looking at expansion, how do you kind of take all of those into consideration as you look at different spaces or existing facilities?
It's so important, and it starts probably even sooner than you'd think, because I guess step back to a little over 12 years ago. I came on board, we had 4 facilities and we had 1 vehicle across all 4. And what has really enabled us to put additional assets on the road is those services, and providing those services to those clients who are not necessarily in-house, those off-site projects. And so over the years, seeing how those demands have enabled us to get those additional assets and deploy those in ways that really help us service our clients. It's one thing to do cold, correct storage on site, and it's another to be able to provide the proper environment in a vehicle right at their doorstep. So to actually answer your question, we do work for clients outside of our markets. And so understanding that data and understanding where those needs are help inform us on where we might want to go. We get client feedback. We have a history of clients all over the country. So where are those clients that we're servicing already that we're not? And so that really helps inform, what we're entertaining as new markets and new buildings, because we know how important those services are in really supporting a local facility, because that facility does more than just what's under the roof. They do a lot outside of the building. And so it's pretty important. Those services really help influence what a facility is equipped to do, and really what the whole kind of market that they're serving, outside of their building itself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, at the end of the day, right, it's all about provenance. It's all about, can we assure, whether it's a bottle that we're just storing for someone or it's a bottle we ultimately sell for someone, we want to make sure that as it passes potentially to someone else, it is, as good as it possibly can be, right?
Yeah, and you have, one of the things I've always thought is really interesting is when you have the refrigerated fleet, somebody who's interested in doing business with us or storing with us obviously cares about provenance, to your point, right? They're gonna pay for storage to make sure that their asset is taken care of. Why would you not do that as soon as you can in the process, right?
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't drive those wines in a minivan with air conditioning 40 miles. Let us do it sooner. Let us get our hands on it sooner so that you can maintain that provenance even further, right? It goes along with consolidated shipping. If you're gonna you obviously value it, you want to store it with us, let us get as early in the pipeline as possible and as late, right? Might as well maintain that provenance for as long as you can.
From a facility and expansion standpoint, and this might sound a little, crunchy, but like, we have to analyze and kind of look holistically at the life cycle of that bottle of wine, but also kind of the journey that a collector takes, right? And so, how do you kind of look at all of those pieces when you're looking at, all of the facets of our business?
It's a great question. It's because we help them on the literal journey, and then when they modify maybe their taste or their preference, then you're really getting outside of my bucket. But talking about advisory division and helping them evolve their collection with their journey with their wines. It's hard to not be involved in all those different aspects of the journey because you're right there with them.
Yeah, no, it's funny, because I'm primarily on the storage side, but all those points that we've talked about, making sure that, how's it getting to us, right? How can we help you with that? It's always true. I love what you said, which is protecting the asset, right? And that's really what I think we do better than anybody else.
Yeah, it's figuring out when is the time to jump in and start helping and start providing value. And I think when you can realize the additional value we can provide outside of just being in the facility, it's pretty vast. It's pretty expansive.
Yeah. And what's neat is it actually, I see this firsthand. It actually starts right in the warehouse, right? Our wine specialists, our operations managers, our warehouse managers, they're there as touch points, and they kind of have an ear to the ground as it relates to somebody who might, to your points, their taste profile has changed, and it happens with all of us, right? I mean, I know some wines that I used to love that are just not my favorites anymore. So it's interesting.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a favorite project or challenge that you've tackled in your current role that you kind of look at as a neat way to kind of share a little of the underbelly of what we do in a fun way?
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on. I think one of the items that's been super interesting to me is, I think we've talked about the fleet a bit today, but building our own vehicles and putting the spec together to make sure that it's done really well, and again, the focus not only inside of our buildings to do it the right way, but when on the road. We've found some new vendors to work with that customize different types of Sprinter, high roof, mid roof vans. So getting to go and visit that vendor, see their process, see how they're passionate about what they do and how they specialize in what they do, and getting to bring those specializations kind of like into our network. So it's kind of a less glamorous part of the business maybe for some, but like building new vehicles has been really interesting and really fun because you get to see it from start to finish. It's super tangible. And then you literally get to see it on the road with our branding. And it's like, yeah, I know how they built that. I know how they put it together. I know the care that went into it, and I know what it's capable of. So some of those more tangible items I think are really, really interesting and really fun, especially if you see them out in the wild.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you probably hear it quite a bit. I mean, what's the general feedback you get from our customers on our facilities and the care that, you in particular kind of oversee on them?
The most common thing that I've heard is also, it also comes from vendors, because I work with a lot of vendors, also a lot of different people in our warehouse working on our systems, is cleanliness and organization. And like when people are in our warehouse, they're like, well, this doesn't feel like a warehouse, right?
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot. I think that says a lot coming from collectors and clients that come in and see, like, first impressions mean a lot. If things are clean and organized, right up front, it's easy to imagine that behind the scenes, it's pretty consistent. And it's really nice to hear it from people that are regularly in different warehouses, servicing different warehouses, different equipment. They come in and they're impressed. They see a lot of it. So it's really interesting, and I'm pretty proud when I hear that feedback from kind of a range of people that have an opportunity to come into one of our facilities.
Nice. Top three, top five. What do you think are the most unique features of our facilities across the board?
I think way up top is probably going to be our premier service, our full managed service. There's a lot of different wine storage facilities, a lot of different self-storage facilities that don't necessarily provide the amount of hands-on service that we're able to provide and give those insights to the clients through the WMS, through wine owners. I think our environmental reporting, we have different sensors that are in the warehouses that are tied into our alarm systems that give us real-time views into, we do liquid temperature, air temperature, CO2, and humidity. And so all of those readings have thresholds that we get alerts. We can view reports. And I think the liquid probes are really interesting. I don't know any people do that, where we have a metal probe inside of a wine bottle that we put water in. And so you can see, like, what's the wine going through in the moment? Like, what is the actual wine temperature? And so I think that's pretty unique, and I think it's pretty valuable. That helps us keep an eye on our environments and reduce downtime on our equipment. If you see any trends or anything coming out of line, we're alerted via text, email, to multiple team members across the country, which speaks to our size and reach. I think the fleet of refrigerated vehicles is a differentiator, because it allows us to expand our reach and service our clients outside of our building, and help them either have access to their collection when it's here, or help them get it here or get it back. There's not a lot of full service facilities that offer that as well. I think one item that's pretty hard to ignore is something you touched on, Doug, which is the team. One of the items that's kept me around for more than 12 years at this point is being surrounded by people who inspire me, who are inspired by what's in the bottle, who are inspired by being in this pretty niche industry. I think people and passion comes through, and does really well for, retention and inspiring each other and kind of keeping moving in this pretty interesting industry we're in. That's four.
That works. Listen, I love doing these interviews because I learn a lot. I mean, I feel like I know a little bit about each part of the business, but I had no idea about, the range of sensors we have in each facility, and that's a selling point that I can use. It's much appreciated. Drew, final question, right? What do you think makes a UOVO facility so special, so unique, so different than say some of our competitors?
I would say for my focus, the amount of different eyes on the different systems that we have, the different insights we have to the data of our environments, air temperature, liquid temperature, things that we're constantly keeping an eye on. We have a huge support structure outside of each building that makes sure that the facilities are running cold and secure. And if you can't do that, then you might as well not be in the business. That's the core. So the amount of attention and detail that goes into that, I think, is pretty unmatched. And then the people, like the support structure for the clients via the teams that are on site and the teams behind the scenes. There's not anyone else in the industry that has the specialization that we have, because you have people in the warehouses that care about what's in the bottles, and they have the support of dedicated IT and HR and accounting and business development. And so you have this whole team of people outside of the specific building that are really just holding each other up. And I don't think there's anybody that has anything close to that. The strength that comes with the support and the specialization of the entire team is definitely unmatched.